Hello, everyone. We're here with Peter Burow. I got that right, didn't I, Peter? Burow. I'm so sorry. First mistake of the interview. Get your interview questions right, or get your names right. But sorry, Peter. We've had an opportunity today to sit with Peter, and Peter, you'll tell us a bit about yourself, of course. But the link is for us, NeuroScience. So I wanted to take this opportunity to have a chat with you about neuroscience and its connection with coaching, really. And we know it's a theme coming through coaching in general. So it'd be good to get your take on it and get a little bit of an insight. So firstly, thank you so much for taking some time, and we look forward to hearing some of your thoughts.
Great. Well, the problem is really that right around the world we're seeing so many of the breakthroughs in neuroscience. We're reading in newspapers. There are these huge pieces of insight, and so coaches all over the place are wondering, how can this change my practice? And I remember about 10 years ago I started working with some other writers in the US, and they'd say to me, what on earth has neuroscience got to do with coaching? And then over the last 5 years I've been getting more and more calls and emails from them saying, this is in the New York Times today, I can't believe it's in the Washington Post. This neuroscience stuff is everywhere. And so, people are wondering, how will this impact my practice? How can I use this insight?
Great. So then how can they use this insight? What is the value for coaches in helping people to understand what coaching is and how it works?
Well, it's a great question because really, if you think about what you're doing as a coach, you're shaping the narrative, you're shaping the story. So if you were to say, you measure the brain, you look at all the different parts of the brain, you say, where is the ghost in the machine? Where am I in this whole machine? And by and large, we tend to say, you are in the frontal lobe. This is the executive function. And so if the frontal lobe isn't working, then you're unconscious, by and large. And if you were to say to one of your clients, how are you today? The question that I would ask is, which part of your brain is asking which part of your brain? Because when your client responds, usually they'll think about it, and then they may recall for a moment, then say, well, I'm well. So in that case, their frontal lobe is asking the midbrain, or the emotional center of the brain, how it's feeling, and then you get a response. So everything that you're doing in coaching, therefore, is about shaping the story, the narrative of understanding, because that's how the brain operates. We take data, and we take intuitive thoughts and vision and ideas, and we weave that into a story. And so as a coach, if you can shape the story, you shape the behavior, you shape the understanding, you shape the ability to be able to have the outcomes that the organization is looking for. And so taking all that, we sat down, we worked with coaches, we worked with neuroscientists, and we worked with psychologists and psychiatrists to come up with an overall model that integrated all that practice. Because neuroscience is very new. So you've got a very structured and disciplined science just at the beginning of its development. And so if anybody says, look, I can tell you 100% the way the brain works, they just don't understand the brain. It is very complicated. Now, what we can understand are principles and practices and what parts do what. And so we can understand how your style is either positively or negatively influencing the way people are able to remember what you give them as part of your coaching methodology. But we're able to also then say, here is a formula, here is the way that you can align what you know with best practice neuroscience.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you just for one takeaway. If somebody is relatively new to coaching, and what piece of knowledge or information can neuroscience give them to help them in terms of engaging their clients?
Well, the first big breakthrough, which is a breakthrough in neuroscience, but we've all known it for a million years, is that we're tribal or herd animals. So the first piece of advice I would have is, even though people always present as an individual with their own individual issues and their own individual problems, they're never really an individual. It's part of a group. And so that relatedness factor is absolutely critical to the success of your coaching. So the questions you can ask yourself is, what is the role that they're playing in their profession, be it the leader or be it a customer service expert? what role are they wanting to play? What role are they playing at home? And then what other roles are being played around them? And in terms of the role of their job, what's the work to be done? Because all this merges into the implicit procedural memory within the brain. It all leads into the habitual part of the brain, and it's like the foundation. So if you get that bit wrong, it's a bit like putting wallpaper on a home which has got structural foundations. It just won't. It'll stick, but it's not going to hold the house together. And so there it is. There's a thought.
Thank you. That's great, and that's useful for all of us as we start to understand the impact that neuroscience is having now, and obviously is going to have as we go forward. All right, Peter. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us and explain a little bit more about neuroscience. We wish you very much as much luck as you need here in the Emirates and beyond. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick.